Hi, everyone. Welcome to this special episode of Medicine 3.0. Today, I'm going to be having a conversation with one of our bionic advisors, Kelly, and we're going to be talking about the health benefits of meditation and how to kind of maintain balance during the holiday season. We're going to be focusing on some of the health benefits, as I mentioned, and we're also going to do a brief exercise on compassion that you may find quite useful. So I hope you enjoy.
All right. Happy to be joining you today, Dr. Isaac, as we talk through this important topic. I know that you're very passionate in this area, so I'm excited to have folks hear all about meditation. I guess to start, why would you recommend people start meditating, even if it's a very short practice versus longer ones?
Yeah. So the thing that has always excited me about meditation is it's free. You don't need to go anywhere. You don't need to buy anything. You don't need special equipment in order to be able to have a meditation practice. So it's easily accessible. The other thing that I think is super important regarding meditation is we are a victim of our minds pretty much all day long. Thoughts are happening, worries arise, frustrations, etc. And if we don't have a regular meditation practice, it can feel like we are a slave to our thoughts. When you begin to practice meditation, even if you're just starting out as a beginner and you're having a short practice, it helps you begin to develop the muscle that you need in order to be able to better regulate the thoughts that are happening and also notice how you're responding to those thoughts. There's a word called metacognition, which basically means like observing yourself and observing your thinking. And it's kind of like when you don't have a regular meditation practice, it's kind of like letting the kid behind the wheel of the car. Like they don't really have much control, they don't really know what's going on. But when you develop this skill of sort of self awareness, self observation, and then self regulation, you're much more able to tailor how you respond to things during the day rather than just react.
That's awesome. I love the analogy that you used. I think that gives a great visual of what can happen if we don't put this practice into our daily or weekly routines. And it sounds like, even outside of what people might see as just a tool for stress management, it sounds like it's a good way to maybe get in tune with your thoughts, where you're at, and just to bring awareness to the moment, which is a big thing that people focus on, especially in this day and age with technology and the fast paced lifestyle. So it sounds like it's a good way to take a step back and kind of evaluate where you are. Is that how you would put it?
100%, actually. And I love that we're making that a focus because I think many times when people begin to start getting introduced to the practice of meditation, they learn about the importance of observing your breath and being in the moment. And then they start to try to practice, and the moment is really uncomfortable. And the immediate reaction that people often feel is like, this is difficult. It doesn't feel good. I don't like it. I'm not going to continue. So they don't really make it past the first few couple of tries and don't necessarily see the value of the practice. So I think the part discussing the importance of kind of observing the self and sort of being compassionate toward ourselves as we learn this practice is super important. I could speak for myself when I say that, practicing meditation for me, while it's super valuable and has benefited me in a lot of ways, there are a lot of times when I'm sitting to meditation and it's uncomfortable. In fact, I woke up last night in the middle of the night and I just had like a discomfort in my body. And so I don't know if it was like tension or muscle tension, or like I was kind of anticipating events that I'm going to need to do in a couple of days because we're traveling. And so I decided to practice some meditation to help me fall back to sleep and relax my body. And it was so interesting because initially I just like felt the discomfort, like my shoulder is tight, like my pillow just doesn't feel like I can get it right. My breath felt like it was not moving properly in my body. It was like pushing up against the wall of my diaphragm, which did not want to move. Now, I'm not saying that that's actually what was happening, but that's kind of like how I was interpreting it and how I was reacting to it. So I started to feel like more frustration. And then I thought to myself, like, is it that I'm getting frustrated because of what I'm feeling? Or am I feeling the frustration that was already there? That's what's keeping me awake in the middle of the night.
Mm.
And so took a step back, if you will, and started to just sort of say to myself, like, I have a couple of busy days coming up, and how can I be compassionate to myself? Like, and then I just kind of talked to myself for a few moments, like, it's okay if your breath feels tight. It's okay if your body feels tight. It's okay if you're worried about the next couple of days coming up. Like, how can I sort of be softer with myself in this moment as opposed to trying to force myself to relax and force myself to meditate? And as I began to do that, like the discomfort was gradually subsiding, quite slowly, but definitely I could notice the shift. And then, even before everything got better, whatever that would mean, I had fallen asleep. And then when I woke up, that sensation was completely gone. So I like to bring that story up because I think it really illustrates a lot of the frustrations that people can feel. And also know that that's going to arise regardless if you practice meditation regularly, multiple times a day, or if this is the first time you are beginning to develop a practice for yourself.
That's incredible. It sounds like trying to let things be without controlling them and just noticing it and letting it kind of pass by in a sense seems to be an important piece of the puzzle. Um, in addition to that, what other value would you say is, I guess, top of mind when you are meditating and why you would recommend it to people? What is their main value they're going to take away?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that in some ways, what I'm going to talk about right now is very related to what I was just saying. I think, what we frequently value in our culture is productivity and getting things done. And so, during our day, we have our long list of things that we need to complete. And when things come up that may be difficult or frustrating, or we might have feelings about, that is inconvenient. So we push them out of our mind.
Mm.
So, like, I'm trying to accomplish my tasks. I get home, I have more tasks that I need to complete. You have a family that you have to take care of or whatever. And then we get to lay down and we expect ourselves to fall immediately to sleep. And I think what one of the important values of meditation is, as you were mentioning just moments before, the self reflection, but also connecting to the feelings that we may be experiencing throughout the day and then identifying that, because oftentimes what happens for folks is we push it out of our mind so much, and then it's maybe 3 hours from the actual point of whatever time or whatever event it was that caused that feeling to arise, so we don't even remember it. So, one of the values of meditation is kind of stopping, feeling, and then naming and identifying the emotions that we may be experiencing. And I think that this is a very powerful practice, which is kind of more of like a self reflection, mindfulness meditation. If you're paying attention to kind of the thoughts that are arising but are not connected to them, it's kind of like paying attention to the emotions that arise but are not connected to them. So again, it's awareness without attachment. And so sometimes I'll even kind of do a feelings inventory for myself where I notice the feeling that arises without attaching the story. So I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. So here's the typical way that our minds will respond. We're laying there, maybe you're meditating, or maybe you're even trying to fall asleep, and you remember an event earlier in the day. Maybe I remember someone that cut me off and, was shouting at me out the window. And so I might remember that, have that thought, feel the experience of anger or fear in my body, but then kind of flip back into thinking about the story. Well, that person was such a jerk because they drove like this, or every time I'm on highway, X, this happens and it's so dangerous. I hate driving on that road. So, like, the more common response is to go and let our mind wander in the story of, the memories of that experience. When I talk about a feelings inventory, I think it's very valuable to say, okay, that memory came up and I'm noticing anger, and I'm noticing fear, and I'm noticing sadness and frustration. Maybe I notice guilt because I feel like I somehow caused that. Or I could even notice resentment because, well, I wouldn't be working late if X. So rather than attaching to the story associated with the events and the emotions, just noticing the emotions that are there. And by naming it, you kind of distance yourself from it. And so it's kind of like naming, just letting myself breathe. And sometimes they even have to name the emotion like multiple times, particularly if it's associated with something that's really strong. So, like, if I'm quite angry about something, I might have to say, like, oh, that's anger. And that's anger again. Yep, feeling a lot of anger. And kind of just breathing and noticing and allowing the expression of it without acting on it. Like, allowing the feeling of the emotion without acting on it. I don't need to then plan retaliation over it. I could just let it exist and then let it move through me. So I think that this is super valuable as well when thinking about a practice of meditation or contemplation, etc.
That's really great. One question that you made me think of as you're going through your story is how you end a meditation. So, especially in one where you're going through these feelings, maybe they're really intense, and even though we're not trying to necessarily change them, but just notice them, see how they feel both in our bodies, in our minds. How do you recommend people close out to move forward without letting it keep weighing them down?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I think you can have a number of different strategies and how to approach that. So, the simplest one would be breathing. So, acknowledging the emotions there, feeling how it feels strong, and then just breathing, taking in 4 breaths, breathing out 4 breaths, doing box breathing, which would be in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. So, kind of just using a couple of different strategies of breathing techniques, because as you do that and you focus your attention on your breath only at that moment, you're not continuing to signal the thoughts that are activating the emotion. And so you begin to calm your nervous system down and you're moving out of the sympathetic and into the parasympathetic. It's going to take practice. It's not going to happen like that, especially if this is something that's new and you haven't done or aren't familiar with it before. Your mind is also going to really try to pull you back to having thoughts that activate the emotion. So, no, I really want to think about how much that jerk that person is. No, I don't want to focus on my breath. I want to have another thought about why they're an idiot. And oh, wait, I remember that other person that did that mean thing to me today. Oh, and there's another. So, like, it's almost like a fire. You've got to withdraw the fuel source so that it can't continue to burn. So, by bringing the attention to the breath or bringing the attention to your body and just the sensations, because we can label an emotion and know, like, okay, this is what anger feels like. But when you bring your attention to like what the sensation is in your body, what does that feel like? Well, I feel it in the center of my chest. Kind of feels maybe like a pressure, maybe it feels like a burning or a tingling, I don't know. And you kind of create this exploration of just noticing, oh, okay, that's how my body is experiencing anger in this moment. This is what it feels like. Another technique that you can do if that happens is noticing the sensations of anger and how that's expressed, and then shifting your attention to a part of your body that is feeling comfortable. So for me, whenever I do this exercise, which I love, it's funny because like my attention will go to like my big toe, or maybe it's my elbow, like, or maybe it's the top of my head. Those parts of my body, usually I don't have pain there. Usually they're quite comfortable no matter where they are in space. So you can alternate your attention between the area of discomfort and then the area that feels comfortable and pain free or at ease. And you'll notice that by kind of moving your attention back and forth, you start to calm your nervous system down again, and you can kind of like, rebalance your whole emotional state. The mind calms down. You stop trying to force those thoughts that are going to activate the anger.
I think you bring up a lot of really great pieces of advice and things for people to pay attention to. One, for example, I want to call attention to is this feeling of anger.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned that there might be some layers underneath. Like maybe there's envy that's there as well. Maybe there's actual rage that's also has things underneath, and that helps kind of bring you back to what is actually frustrating you, and probably adds a lot of clarity to people. And I think that's where the mind can kind of trick us to try and get us through difficult times, but if we don't ever go back to it, we keep going down the path we don't really want to go potentially.
Yeah.
So that's really great. And then I guess if someone wants to start, so starting from scratch, let's say I've never meditated before, even tried any sort of mindfulness activity like breathing, what's a simple thing that people can do to start? Because meditation as a whole can kind of be a little intimidating, but it sounds like there's something for everyone. There's just so many variations of things you can do. So where would you have people start?
That's great, Kelly. I love that you say that. So there are a lot of different variations to a meditation practice. I think one of the first things I like to tell folks is that you can think of meditation as like rest, providing your mind with the opportunity to rest. So I think that that's a useful way of describing the practice because we're so used to doing things all day long that we want to try when we're doing meditation, right? Like, so we're trying to force, and it creates tension. So if you're encouraging yourself to rest, then it's like, oh, okay, it's more of that letting go. It's more relaxing. It's not trying to force anything to happen. So I think simply just introducing that idea is can be quite useful when people are starting their meditation practice. Um, so one of the things that I think is a valuable resource is just going to YouTube and searching different types of meditation. Some people like guided visualization. Some people like breathing exercises. Some people like calming sounds. So like they might like the sound of running water or birds chirping. Sometimes people like when there's a guided meditation and that person is providing a lot of guidance, like a lot of direction. Other people really appreciate it when there's minimal instruction and just kind of like an occasional, word of guidance, like come back to the breath or come back to the sensation of, yourself seated in your chair. So I would encourage folks to start simply by just searching meditation on YouTube and exploring different types. Some can really provide very visual descriptions. You're on the beach, you're feeling this, you're experiencing that, or you're tasting this. And sometimes when you're new at it can be helpful to really have something that's engaging your mind, which wants to be super, super active. I think the other value of trying out YouTube is you can understand that there are different styles. So just because if you download, the most popular app and you find it really difficult to do their style of meditation, it doesn't mean you can't meditate. It just means that maybe right now, right for today, this particular style is not jiving with you. Maybe it will tomorrow, or maybe it will in 6 months. But I think sometimes when people download, meditation apps, they can feel discouraged if they find that the style that the meditation app is teaching doesn't necessarily resonate with them.
Yeah, that could be very frustrating. I think that's why, in general, in health, personalization is important, and recognizing that not everything is for everyone. And that's why there are so many options. Would you say, like, if someone's having a hard time finding a video that they might like, that's just starting with breath work, whether it's the box breathing or even going on a walk in the woods and just paying attention to the sights, sounds, smells around them, could be a form of meditation they could use?
100%. That's great, and I love that you bring that up because yes, walking in nature is definitely a form of meditation. Um, One teacher who happens to be a Buddhist teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, has written many books on meditation. He describes types of walking meditation that you can do, and just sort of focusing on each step and focusing on coordinating your breath with each step, or just thinking like, as I step forward, I'm breathing in. And then as I step forward, I'm breathing out, so that you don't even have to feel like you're trying to pace yourself and you're breathing and coordinate things. Because again, when you're new, that can be super frustrating and distracting to the mind.
Yeah,
So,
especially in today's world with Instagram and notifications all the time and emails always dinging on our phones. I think
mhm,
that's a really great way to help people kind of step away and take off the pressure that this big word meditation can bring sometimes. It makes me
absolutely.
think back. When I was in high school, I had a track coach that would always have us do meditation, and everyone would kind of grumble and not really want to do it. And he would always have us start out with just with breathing, and then after a few minutes he would just have us visualize a number in our head, like the number one, and he would just repeat one, one,
Mhm.
and you're just trying to call to mind these things, and you're focused on something different, so you kind of forget that the intention is supposed to be relaxing, but it helps you get out of that expectation that you might have from what meditation is in media and things. So
Yes, I'm so glad you bring up expectation. That's so important. An interesting exercise that somebody might want to do for themselves when they're going to start a meditation practice is just like do a little journal exercise of what do I expect meditation to be? Well, I expect in meditation my mind is going to be blank, or I expect that I'm going to be seated cross legged and my back is really going to hurt, or I expect that I'm going to get really distracted and have lots of thoughts. And sort of just knowing what you're going to expect. And then just sort of putting that aside and saying, okay, those are expectations. Usually, when we have expectations, they are not fulfilled. So you're sort of setting yourself up for disappointment in one way or the other when you have expectations. But if you know what those expectations are, you can question them, and you can also just notice them as they're happening. Like, oh, there's my back hurting. Oh, okay. So, yeah, well, I am having some discomfort in my back. Okay, how can I adjust my posture so I'm more comfortable? And that actually brings up something important. A lot of times when you hear people talk about meditation practice, they'll talk about sitting in upright position, having a really straight spine. And do I think that those things are valuable? Absolutely. But I don't think they're valuable if they're going to prohibit you from practicing. So if you find like I'm much more likely to practice meditation if I'm lying in my bed. Like sometimes I fall asleep, but sometimes I fall asleep sitting up. So I don't know that it's necessarily inhibiting my practice so much. So, kind of, I think, especially in the beginning, or if you have certain health challenges or things like that, however you modify the practice for you is perfectly fine. There's no right answer. So, if you want to lay down, you want to stand on your head, you want to get a special meditation chair, great. That's what you want to do. And there's no right or wrong.
I think that brings up another good point when you talk about a meditation chair. And it triggered a thought for me about people's busy schedules. And sometimes it feels like adding on another thing that I need to do to help with X, Y, and Z in my health actually causes more of a burden and a stressor. So, how can people implement this practice, whatever it may be, even if it's for a minute, into their day without feeling like it's overwhelming. So, how can they remove that time barrier?
Sure. I think one thing they can first just recognize is that, as I mentioned earlier, you can practice meditation anytime, anywhere. So if you arrive to work and you've got 3 minutes to sit in your car and practice breathing, you can do that. Or you're leaving work and before you start driving, you want to give yourself a few minutes just to sit quietly. Maybe you put on some pleasant music in the background and you just let yourself relax. Great, you can do that. As I mentioned, like I will practice meditation when I'm lying in bed frequently. That's kind of an easy time for me to do it. Like I'm resting, I'm there. All right, good. Like now I can practice my meditation. And walking or sort doing with activities, swimming, another wonderful thing, bike riding, you can practice, meditation, just sort of focusing on your breath or focusing on the sensation of the wind on your face as you're, biking. So, knowing that you can do it kind of anytime, anywhere is super important. I think the other thing is knowing that there's resources right at the tip of your fingers. So, again, yes, you could certainly download apps, and there are some really amazing meditation apps that are out there right now that you could check out. But you can always just search on YouTube, and all of a sudden, you have a guided meditation right there that you can listen to of a whole variety of different lengths. Um, Another point is like, don't try to force yourself to fit into this idea of I have to do 15 minutes or I have to practice 20 minutes. And if I don't do that, it's not good at all. I probably should just not even start. Well, would 15 or 20 minutes be better? Yeah, it'll be better, but is 3 or 5 minutes better than nothing? 100%. So just realizing where we might create barriers for ourselves. I think it's similar to exercise in that, Kelly. And like, people say, well, I didn't have my sneakers that I like to run in. And I didn't have the right workout clothes. And well, yeah, you may not have had the exact items that you wanted to wear to exercise in, but that doesn't really prevent you from doing certain things, right? Like you can still go for a walk. I mean, I'm wearing my like not my usual running shoes. Have I gone for brisk walks in them, and have I ran in them? Actually, I have. Not that I'm telling everybody, especially if you have foot injuries. But it's just interesting. We do create a lot of reasons of why we can't accomplish our goals. So it's worth paying attention to.
Yes, definitely can be the case in most people's lives. And then before we move on, I know that you're going to share a nice treat with us with a short 5 minute meditation as an example for people to go through. But if even though people might just be starting out trying just to get 1 day a week, would you say that daily would be a good goal to work up to over time? Or is it something that can be more sporadic?
I definitely think daily is an ideal practice for meditation. Think of meditation as recovery. That's a wonderful way to think about it. Like it's a mental, emotional, physical recovery from your day. And we need to recover every day, whether it's some physical challenge that we had, a mental or emotional challenge that we've had. And so if you think of it as recovery, then it may be something that you're more apt to look forward to. Like, okay, I'm just going to give myself 5 minutes of mental recovery. I'm going to sit quietly. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to pay attention to my body. I'm going to allow myself to relax any tension if I experience tension. Okay, this feels good. Or, I'm going to listen to my favorite meditative music. I love the sound of this. I love the instruments. I love this person's voice. It just feels really good to me. So yeah, I think, certainly daily is ideal.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for all you've shared so far. And I look forward to this meditation that you're going to take us through now.
Okay, excellent. So the type of meditation I'm going to lead you through is called metta meditation. It's a meditation on compassion, and I'm going to kind of guide you through it in the way that I like to go through it. Um, as you practice this type of meditation, one of the focuses of it is to kind of develop compassion towards someone in your life that you might not have compassion for. And so I think when you've been practicing it for a bit, you can incorporate that element. But I actually think just boiling it down to some key elements can make it a really accessible type of meditation practice for everyone, regardless of, focusing on that difficult relationship. So, what we're going to do is we're going to think about a couple of different people, and I'll talk you through every step of the way. And as you focus on a person or a loved one, it could be a pet as well, in your mind, you're going to silently repeat these phrases. And you're going to picture that you're sort of saying these phrases to this loved one and that they're receiving the benefits of the phrases. So I'll tell you what the phrases are. First, it is, may you be well. Second phrase is, may you be safe from inner and outer dangers. Third phrase, may you be healthy in body and mind. And then the fourth is, may you be at ease and happy. And if you search metta meditation online, you're going to see that there's variations on those phrases, but I think those are pretty straightforward and simple. So we'll do the exercise where we're visualizing a loved one. Imagine in our minds that we're saying those phrases and sort of sharing that energy with them. The second part of the meditation will introduce ourselves into that with this loved one. And then the third part of the meditation, we're going to imagine a larger group. So it could be, your family, it could be your neighborhood, it could be your coworkers, it could be your sports team, it can be, your state or the whole world. It doesn't matter how big or how small. It's just kind of imagining sharing these loving thoughts with a group. Okay? So to get started, first, if you're comfortable, you can close your eyes. Otherwise, you can kind of just have them sort of softly gazing somewhere. And then you'll take a moment to think about, a loved one. And don't think about the person that you think you're supposed to send loving thoughts to. Just think about someone that it's easy to feel good about. Like once you think about them, you start smiling. So pets are easy to do for that. But it could be, a cousin that you don't get to see, or it can be, a friend that you don't see often that you enjoy spending time with. So just someone where it's easy to really feel those good feelings for. And once you've chosen that person, again, you can close your eyes if you like, but imagine them in your mind. Maybe it's a specific memory you have, or maybe you just see them smiling and laughing. And then you're going to repeat the phrase quietly to yourself, just silently, may you be well. And then second phrase, may you be safe from inner and outer dangers. And third phrase, may you be healthy in body and mind. And last one, may you be at ease and happy. And just see them smiling and receiving those good thoughts that you're sharing with them. And then shift the picture in your mind to include yourself. So you might see yourself smiling and laughing with this person, or maybe you're hugging or doing an activity that you enjoy together, or special memory. And then repeat the phrase, may we be well. May we be safe from inner and outer dangers. May we be healthy in body and mind. May we be at ease and happy. And then see yourself smiling and feeling good. Again, maybe hugging or shaking that person's hand, or just high fives. And then in the third round, imagine a larger group. Maybe your neighbors, maybe an old group of school friends you haven't seen in a while. Maybe it's a whole field of puppies. It could be whatever you like. And then see yourself smiling, enjoying each other's company, and feeling that goodness in your heart. And then say quietly to yourself, may we all be well. May we all be safe from inner and outer dangers. May we all be healthy in body and mind. May we all be at ease and happy. And finish off that visualization again, seeing some smiles, maybe some laughter, some hugs, just feeling good. Notice how this practice maybe has shifted the inner experience you're feeling in your body. Just acknowledging how wonderful it is by simply focusing your attention a certain way, you can generate a physical experience, you can generate a certain set of emotions, and you can generate a certain state of mind. And then when you're ready, just feeling your body, taking a breath, and if your eyes were closed, allowing them to open. And you've meditated.
Thank you so much. That was amazing, leading us through that. And it's very peaceful once you take a moment just to either think about the past or imagine a moment in the future as you go through that meditation.
Great. I'm so glad to share that with you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for all you shared today. Hopefully our Bionic Health listeners on Medicine 3.0 enjoyed their little meditation today. At the time of this recording, we're right in the mix of the holiday, rushing around and getting ready. So hopefully that you can take this time to practice that in stressful moments or during a flight delay, perhaps, or even on an airplane or in a long car ride. And even if you're not listening to this around the holidays, there's always something going on where this can be useful. So thank you all for joining us today. And thank you, Dr. Isaac.
Thank you, Kelly. See you later.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Medicine 3.0. We make this podcast so that you know where to turn for good information on keeping you and your loved ones healthy. Feel free to check us out at bionichealth.com, where we can help you live a longer, happier life.